In Pit Lane, proudly brought to you by Online Invent, websites, digital marketing and custom software.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane, coming to you from the studios of RMIT here in the heart of Grand Prix City, Melbourne. And we can say Grand Prix City, Melbourne because coming up this weekend down at Phillip Island, it is the Australian MotoGP. All the MotoGP categories in action, Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP, but also a great support category including the Oceania Junior Cup. And joining us a little bit later on in the program to talk about that and to help us preview the big event, the Australian Grand Prix, will be Teerin Fleming. And we caught up with him out at Clayton just recently in the mini GP, so he'll be joining us in the studio. But somebody who's very, very excited right now. This is like all his Christmases have come at once. Our regular two-wheel tragic, Doc Craig Latigo.
Yeah.
This is your time of year, isn't it?
Oh, almost speechless, but I'm more excited than Big Kev or Daryl Eastlake.
So you're excited?
Oh yeah, I'm jumping out of my skin. Let's get on with it.
Okay, well let's get on with it indeed, because well, it's obviously been a big weekend of motorsport locally, because of course we had Bathurst, we had of course Grand Prix happening in Japan and a whole lot more. So let's check out what's been happening around Australia and around the world. This is the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. Well, Shane van Gisbergen and Garth Tander have cemented a place for themselves in Australian folklore by taking their 888 Commodore to Holden's final win at the Bathurst 1000. Starting from 7th on the grid, the pre-race favourites avoided all the chaos around them to take the win from defending race winner Chaz Mostert and his new co-driver Fabian Coulthard in a Holden 1-2. Cam Waters and James Moffat were third in the first of the Ford Mustangs. Heavy rain for most of the weekend caused chaos with several major incidents, including a scary crash involving Zane Goddard, who was recklessly rejoined the track after a high-speed off at the chase. Goddard was later fined $10,000 for the crash that ended the race for Brad Jones Racing's Commodore of Andre Heimgardner and Dale Wood and the Grove Racing Mustang of Dave Reynolds and Matt Campbell. Van Gisbergen's win further strengthens his championship lead as the teams now regroup and rebuild ahead of a return to the streets of Surfers Paradise at the end of the month.
A war of words has broken out between Erebus and Tickford Racing after an incident in the Great Race. Tickford Racing boss Tim Edwards claimed James Moffat's run-in with Brodie Kostecki may have cost the team a win in the race. Moffat slammed Kostecki for driving like a dickhead, while Edwards described him as an expletive-deleted imbecile. Thus coming season spinner, fired up Erebus CEO Barry Ryan, who described Moffat as an amateur driver. Speaking to Speed Cafe, Ryan said, if Tickford want to blame someone for losing their shot at a Bathurst win, they need to look at their own co-driver and his actions. Kostecki and co-driver Dave Russell finished fourth, one spot behind the Tickford car.
And the FIA has confirmed that Red Bull did not stay under the cost cap level in 2021. Quelle surprise. The team has been found guilty of what's been described as a minor overspend breach. Aston Martin was also named for what was described as a procedural breach. The FIA Cost Cap Administration is currently determining the appropriate course of action to be taken with respect to both Aston Martin and Red Bull, with a firm but reasonable slap in the general wrist area probably the most likely result.
The F1 circus returned to Japan last weekend, but of course that wasn't the only international event. Let's check out a few of them with this week's International Wrap.
Shock horror, pictures, page 3. Yes, Max Verstappen is the 2022 World Formula One champion after another bewildering interpretation of the rules by the FIA. Despite not going the required distance after a red flag restart, the FIA decided that when added together, the first attempt at the race would count, which just pushed the race over the minimum distance for full points. The result, and a time penalty that dropped Charles Leclerc to third place, meant that Verstappen now can't be beaten for the title, despite there being 4 rounds remaining. A third place in the Hockenheim season finale was enough to give Sheldon van der Linde his first DTM title. Marco Wittmann took the race win in his Vulcan-horse BMW ahead of René Rast, having his last drive for Audi in the series. Lucas Auer, who was just 2 points down on van der Linde going into the race, finished in 7th place, enough to secure the runner-up spot in the championship just ahead of Russ. A surprise win to Christopher Bell has opened up the fight for the series title after the latest round of the championship on the Roval in Charlotte, North Carolina. Woo! A strategic pit stop for new tyres under caution on lap 105 paid off for Bell, who passed Kevin Harvick on the restart on lap 111 and pulled away to take the win. That win means Bell now moves into the round of 8, but also eliminates reigning series champion Kyle Larson, who brought his car into pit lane on lap 98 after making contact with the wall. And Mercedes have wrapped up the Intercontinental GT Challenge with a race win to Kraft Bamboo in the Indianapolis 8-hour race. The team of Daniel Morad, Daniel Juncadella and Rafael Marciello took the win after a race-long battle with the AF Corse Ferrari team. The win was the Hong Kong team's breakthrough first Intercontinental GT Championship win and has seen Juncadella take the Drivers' Championship lead over Jules Gounon. Aussie driver and well-known Mount Panorama resident Kenny Habul was 5th to win the Pro-Am class.
News at last for local drag racing fans with the news that regular off-street racing is to return to Melbourne's Calder Park this Friday. Numbers for the event have been capped to try and provide competitors with as many opportunities to race as possible, but there are still spots available. Gates open at 4:30 with the racing kicking off at 6 o'clock. As yet, there's no official word as to if and when full-scale competition racing will resume. The reopening of the track will be a huge boost for Metro-based competitors who've previously had to make the long drive to Heathcote to get their drag racing fix.
And after a COVID-induced break of a few years, Moto Classica returned to the Melbourne Exhibition Buildings at Carlton. Oh, isn't that brilliant? Numbers were well down on previous years, but there was no shortage of quality, with plenty of eye candy for the enthusiast to drool over.
The 2022 Motor Classica was a welcome return to the local motoring scene. Car numbers were well down on previous events, and the show seems to be taking a subtle shift in focus with more modern and exotic machines on hand. There was a very good representation from the world of motorsport, with everything from the ex-Kevin Bartlett Di Tommaso Pantera to Bob Jane's original Big Block Mustang. The clash with Bathurst may have not helped any, but overall crowd numbers were good, and the reaction mostly favourable. Whatever happens, we're looking forward to Motor Classica 2023.
We're going to take a break now here on In Pit Lane on Channel 31, but when we come back we're going to be previewing the big Australian Grand Prix meeting and the Oceania Junior Cup happening this weekend down at Phillip Island. This is In Pit Lane. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Get the phone ringing for your business with website development and SEO services from Online Invent. Visit onlineinvent.com.au.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, coming up this weekend, of course, down at Phillip Island is the Australian MotoGP. We've got MotoGP, we've got Moto2, Moto3. We've got the Superbikes, the Australian Superbikes, incredibly popular, but also the Oceania Junior Cup. And to find out about that, and also to help us preview for the big race, is somebody, well, he's fresh off a flight all the way from Malaysia via Singapore and still suffering from jet lag at the age of only 12 years old. He is Teerin Fleming. Teerin, welcome to In Pit Lane.
Thank you.
So a big weekend. Now you were over there because your brother was over there racing at Sepang. How old is your brother?
He's 15 years old.
15 years old. So he's got a couple of years on you. So what's his situation at the moment? He's racing mostly overseas, is he?
Yes, racing Spanish Championship and the Asian Road Race Championship.
Now, I suppose we know how popular motorcycle racing is in Spain, and it seems that all of the new riders, everybody that sort of jumps into any form of MotoGP racing is Spanish at the moment. Is that the place to be? I mean, is that where you're wanting to go?
Yeah, I'd say Spain would be the #1 spot to go for motorsports, Italy and Portugal.
Now, you've been very fortunate as well, though, too. As Brett's just said, you're heading off to Spain too, T-Man. Sorry, that's his nickname, T-Man. Got to get in with the lingo these days. But you've had a really great, successful year on the bike. You've been up to Queensland Raceway, you've been to Ipswich and Sydney and stuff like that. Tell us how many races you did and how you got there and how you qualified to get to go to Spain.
Yeah, so, well, with the rounds up...
How many rounds did you have?
In the mini-GP we had 5 rounds and a double header, which was the last round.
Cool.
And for the Oceania Junior Cup we had 6 rounds, but we've only done 4 so far.
Yeah. And it all came down to points, and so how many riders get to go over to Spain?
Well, for mini-GP only 2, the top 2 make it. And for OJC, if you sign in, you have to do stuff, and then you get to do tryouts for Red Bull rookies and...
Oh, yeah.
And
so you're keeping your options open as well too.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you're doing this weekend down at Phillip Island. Tell us about, when people go down there, it's going to be one of the categories they see. What is the Oceania Junior Cup?
It's a support class for this weekend the MotoGP, but usually it's a support class for the Australian Superbikes. And there's, I think, 19 riders or 20 riders.
So because it's the Oceania Junior Cup, I mean, are they all Australian or is it a mixture of Australia, New Zealand and other countries as well?
Most of them Australian, there's one New Zealand.
So you get to go overseas as a result of these races and stuff this year and the Oceania Cup. I think it's Harrison and yourself are going over, aren't you? So when do you leave Australia and how much of the year do you have to be over there for it?
I think it's in November and it's during the week, but...
And you're there for a few months?
I think it's a 3-day thing.
3-day thing?
Before the Valencia Grand Prix.
Right, okay, before the Valencia. I see you guys are the curtain raiser.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
So how does that feel? I mean, like I said during the break, I mean, when I was 12, I mean, a trip to Upper Ferntree Gully or down to Rosebud was pretty exotic. You're travelling all around the world, but how important is it? I mean, we know in sort of four-wheeled competition, we've got, guys like Hugh Barter and those sort of people, and Oscar Piastri went over when they were 15, 16, 17. You're going like even earlier. How important is it for someone of your age to get over there and get right into it? As it seems so young.
Because over in Spain, they train every day, and like for FP1s and all that, they'll be on the pace straight away. But in Australia, they don't practice as much, so FP1 it takes them a bit of time just to get up to the pace.
Talking about practice, I've been looking at a bit of your riding style. Brett and I dropped over to Oakley a couple of weeks ago and watched you guys riding a bit, and I noticed that you deliberately try and go out in front very early, and I think up in Queensland you gapped everyone by about 5 seconds, I think, in one of the races, or 4 seconds or something like that. Is that something that you think is your way of doing things, that you find more comfortable, jump out the front and then try and gap everyone else? Is that your style?
Yeah, I'd say following I struggle a bit unless it's qualifying or something, and I find it's easier to race with clear track ahead of you.
And you get into a bit of a groove or something like that.
Yeah.
You feel more comfortable, do you? Yeah.
Of course, it's a massive difference. I mean, you're turning up at, you've come out of the Oakley Go-Kart Club track, which is a lovely little track, but it is little. This weekend, you're at one of the great race circuits of the world at Phillip Island. And it's a track which even MotoGP riders, some of them are intimidated by. Are you intimidated by it? Are you comfortable? How often have you raced at the island?
I've been there a few times, but on the RM5 it's pretty much just you're flat out everywhere except for a couple of corners, so it's not that
So
bad.
what is the bike you're riding?
Yamaha R15.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And how fast do they go?
I think by themselves like 140.
You can do 140 Ks, so you'll be going down the Phillip Island, down the straight, down the other, leaning the Team 1, probably doing about 120, 140 K an hour.
Yeah.
You got some new leathers?
Have you got some new underpants? That's the main thing.
You're looking forward to it. So you've done it before. Yeah. Is that the fastest gone? Or is it the same bike you're riding this weekend as you've ridden on it before, or is this going to be a new bike?
I've ridden this bike plenty of times. So.
Okay, I was going to say, look, you've got confidence. So when you're up in North and some of the other racetracks up in Queensland, New South Wales, have you been over to South Australia and WA as well too?
Yeah, I've been to South Australia, and that's not WA.
At the Bend?
Yeah.
Okay, how'd you find that?
That's probably one of my favourite tracks, I'd say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Do you like more turns or you like more straights?
Sam Shaheen will be delighted about that. Sam watches the show occasionally.
He does, yeah.
I like a long straight with a lot of corners, so.
Right, exactly, yeah. Very
So
nice.
I would imagine that, you know, like with a category that would be like the old days of the 125s when we used to have them. I would imagine, and Moto 3 at the moment, slipstreaming would be a really important thing. So is there a lot of strategy involved?
Well, Phillip Island, other tracks like Morgan Park and all that, it's usually the front group's 6 or 5 people, and Phillip Island's the whole class is at the front, so.
So
It's about luck, because
I think you're making your own luck in the last couple of years. So how long have you been riding? How old did you start riding?
I started competitive at 7 years old, and I started riding when I was 4
in a motocross or just on road bikes
just
as well?
dirt bikes.
Dirt bikes, you
Yeah.
did. Because everyone says that in the you need to be riding a combination of the two. And even the MotoGP riders, you're watching them like Jack, who got married last week and that.
Yep, we'll get that.
Yeah.
We'll move on to that in a moment. We'll come back and we'll preview the MotoGP. But right now, we're going to take a break here on Channel 31. When we come back, Teerin will join us once again to preview the Motorcycle Grand Prix, and joining us also with music, Dan Culley. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Okay, can we get Dan into position, please, for his first song?
Lost my mic.
And Doc's lost his.
I'm going to go see my audio technician.
Okay, Sarah might be able to help you.
That's exactly what I was talking about. It dropped off. That's all right, that's all right.
He's just doing so he can get felt up with by Sarah. That's all.
Half your luck.
He has a very lonely existence, the poor boy. So
I have not been playing with it. Don't say things like that.
No, that coming offline. That's a remember. I guess tonight he's only 12 years old.
We can get the guys.
So you enjoyed the weekend. What's the plan for your brother next year? I mean, he's a couple of. Are you going to just sort of follow in his footsteps, or are you going to sort of try and leapfrog him, or?
He's trying to take the World Superbike footsteps, so he's going down 300 path, and I'm trying to get there down the MotoGP.
More
path.
MotoGP.
Yeah.
And all that. But that's one of the good things about bikes, isn't it? I mean, you do have that option that you've got. The World Superbike is a real genuine option, as Remy Gardner has found out. I mean, it hasn't worked out as he would have liked in MotoGP, so he's got that opportunity now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
From what you know about sort of the MotoGP, the difference between MotoGP and superbikes, do you think that Remy will be good in superbikes?
I think he should be top 10 at least.
Okay,
Yeah.
there. That's good to know. We'll talk about the Grand Prix itself when we come back after the break. But right now, joining us on the program. Wherever we are, we're on camera too. But right now, in position, if we're ready to go, is Dan Culley, and we'll give you Dan's details a bit later on as to where you can find him out. He's on Instagram at Dan Culley Music, and also he's got a gig coming up this Saturday. Is it Saturday at the Bergie Seltzer? Is it the Bergie Seltzer? Whereabouts is that?
It's just on Sydney Road in Brunswick.
Sydney Road, Brunswick. Okay, the Bergie Seltzer. They have all these strange. I remember when pubs used to be called, the Stamford and the pub and the Albion and that sort of thing. But no, they've all got strange names nowadays. But okay, this is as a bonus for all of you watching at home. This is Dan Culley, and he's going to play us with the song Mother Nature. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan Culley.
Sitting by a river, watching the water flow down, sunlight cutting through the trees. As the wind moves through the leaves, I feel that old peace speaking to me. And she knows my soul and the memories that I hold. And she's opening my heart, showing me how to love in the way she does. Mother Nature, I hear you calling me home. Mother Nature, I know that you're calling me home. In the silence of my heart, I feel the pulse and the beat, the rhythm of your love, the earth under my feet, the wind in my hair. I can be without a care when I hear you speaking to me. And you know all my soul and the memories that I hold, and you're opening my heart, showing me how to love in the way you do. Mother Nature, I hear you calling me home. Mother Nature, I know that you're calling me home. She knows my soul and the memories that I hold, and she's opening my heart, showing me how to love in the way she does. Mother Nature, I hear you calling me home. I hear you calling me. I know you're calling me, and I hear you calling me, like only you do, in the way you do. Mother Nature, I hear you calling me home.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, coming up this weekend, of course, the Australian MotoGP down at Phillip Island. Our special guest tonight, Teerin Fleming. And Teerin, let's talk about the big race. Obviously, you're a big fan of MotoGP. I mean, what are you looking forward to this week?
Just MotoGP coming back to Australia, so...
Yeah. Are you going down there yourself, of course?
Yeah.
And with the bikes and that sort of stuff, how much preparation do you have to do down there? Do you have to get down there on the Thursday, Friday? Are you going to be skipping school?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, don't ask you questions.
No, that's all right. Yeah. No, I was going to say, yeah.
School.
Exactly, yeah. You might have to do some school over in Spain. That'll be different, learn another language. But anyway, yeah, so down there Thursday,
Yeah,
Friday?
Thursday, like 4:30.
So how much track time do you actually get over the weekend?
I don't think there's anything on Sunday, just Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, and of course, yeah, they're probably good days to go down. Hoping to get down on Friday myself if I can get down there. Now the weather is going to be difficult. Let's talk about the main race. Who's your tip for the MotoGP? Who do you think is going to take the victory?
I'd say one of the Ducatis, so Miller, hopefully.
Miller or Bagnaia. What about Johan Zarco? He's been over there settling in early.
I shouldn't think about that.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing I do remember was when we dropped over the Oakley Kart Club a couple of weeks ago, all you guys, everyone there on the day, got themselves a black texture out. They got a flag, didn't they? So you're presenting that to Jack, won't you?
Yeah.
And what time do you do that? Do you do it in the lead up to it or after the race on the Sunday or something like that?
I think it's before, when they're on the grid for Sunday, something like that.
I've got a funny feeling knowing Jack, he'll just be excited as much as the kids are about seeing them, I reckon.
Jack, of course, had a very exciting sort of week. I mean, because last weekend he got married, so we congratulated him last week about the impending nuptials. It's now happened, so he's been a busy lad over the next. So you think that Jack can come back and win in the Ducati? Doc, what about you? Who's your tip for the weekend?
Oh, Hart, of course, obviously for Jack. Thriller Miller, love him to do it as well, though too. But I'll tell you what, this sounds really strange saying this, but Marc Marquez could be a bit of a dark horse. He has had a few flash in the pans lately. He's been going in the last couple of races, just showing some glimpses of his former glory. But he's come out this week as well, saying as well too that the Honda's got some difficulties at the moment. The bike's not where it needs to be, probably because he hasn't been there for the development and he's had a few injuries and some.
Yeah, I noticed he was very quick to sort of put up his hand and say that the problem with the bike is because I haven't been there.
Yeah, well, to a certain extent, but the Espargaro brothers, don't discount them as well though too. They're one's on the Aprilia, one's on a Honda as well, but they've shown some great glimpses of form and been pretty consistent throughout the whole year. So. Look, I mean, depending on the weather as well, though, too. The other thing as well, though, is consider that they haven't been racing down here. So they didn't race here last year. They didn't have the MotoGP down here. So the track's going to be a little bit different, a bit more unfamiliar to some of them as well, though, too. So look at, I'm obviously one.
So in other words, you're sitting on the fence.
No, I want Thrill to do it, but I think Bang Yai, I think he'll want to seal the championship up this because Quartararo.
We'll go through the whole field. I'm just going to put it down now. I think this is the ideal opportunity for if you were a Hollywood script writer, you would be writing that the Jack Miller will win this weekend, and I'm going for the happy ending. I think that my money is on. If I was spending money, my money is certainly on Jack Miller. Hey, good luck to you on the weekend. We'll certainly follow you. So I would imagine that some of your races or all of your races will be on the coverage from Foxtel. I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay, so good luck. So keep an eye out for Teerin on the weekend. Good luck with not just this weekend, but for the rest of your career. And for now, Teerin Fleming, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thank you.
Thanks, team.
And thank you to you at home for joining us. Now, to take us out tonight, Dan Culley is going to join us. You can catch up with him on Instagram at Dan Culley Music, and he is playing on Saturday night, 15th of October, at the Bergie Seltzer, which is in Brunswick, from 6 to 8 p.m. And he's going to take us out tonight. So until we see you next week here on In Pit Lane, from all of us, thanks for joining us. And now here's Dan Culley and yours truly. Good night.
Don't know where you'll find it, but you gotta know that it's there. Even though the path is winding, still a little moment to share. Share a little love, share a little warmth, share a little care when it's cold. If it took forever to find it, know that I'll meet you there. I believe in honesty, although there's many ways that I still hide from myself. Don't love these masks I can be, still beyond it all, I came here to love myself. In sickness and in health, through heaven and through hell. Tell me what it really means to really be myself in this world. Which wolf have I been feeding? Can I let myself be held? With a little love, with a little warmth, with a little care when it's cold. If it took forever to find it, know that I'll meet you there. I believe in honesty, although there's many ways that I still hide from myself. And all of these masks I can be, still beyond it all, I came here to love myself. And sing this and in hell, through heaven and through hell. There's beauty on this journey, and I'm standing here still, reaching out my hand, trusting in that grace, calling me on to love and embrace. Oh, 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 oh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't know where you'll find it, but you gotta know that it's there. Even though the path is winding, still a little moment to share. Share a little love, share a little warmth, share a little care when it's cold. You could look forever to find it, but I know I'll meet you there.